We're all in this together. All right. What topic is for today's lesson? What do you guys want? We have from the following. The list may change and expand as I feel like talking about new and different exciting things. We got motherfucking Lord of the Rings lore, ethics, Fallout lore, Halo lore, IT computer stuff, history, debate, how to debate, anything like that. We got anything as a topic. We got Skyrim lore, Star Wars universe stuff. We got. No, I was thinking about a whole bunch of like. I was thinking of a whole bunch of topics I could talk about after I got lunch, and I could not think. I couldn't remember them all. I can remember them now. Oh, they were so good too. Elder Scrolls stuff, video game stuff, politics. I could talk about politics, mainly American politics, because that's all I really understand. Because fuck the rest of the world. It's too complicated to know everything. A lot of people don't get it, including my own people. That's the issue. I talk about directing. We talk about cinematography. We could talk about how to craft a well-constructed story. All politics doesn't stuff. Politics is very important, and politics is very interesting. Hello, Fox Thing. Welcome to the lesson. We got. I guess the more about a well-constructed story will be more about. It's gonna be more about filmmaking than actual writing. I like film. I like TVs, movies. I like stuff. I like a lot of stuff. All right. Today's Loki's learning. Movies are very important. Everyone should watch movies. So what is so great about movies compared to other forms of media is you can really craft an experience you want to craft. So unlike a book, where you just have words on paper, the reader is free to imagine everything and anything. However, with a movie, you show the watcher everything. You show them, the colors, you show them what characters look like, the set design, and with those things, you can more easily and more effectively set a certain mood, set a certain path, or set themes in your screen than you can with the book. Or, in contrast with the video game, where you can set these set pieces and set these scenes, however, depending on the player, it changes the experience. So everybody's experience is different. But with a movie, you can really tell a story and tell it how you want to tell it. However, in saying that, there are still some nuance to it. There's still some changes based on who's watching it and how they experience it, because everything resonates with different people differently. Also, yes, movies do cost a fuck ton more to make than a book. They also cost more to... Actually, no. A movie ticket, I think, costs less than a new book, depending on if it's paperback or whatever. But, yeah, whatever. So, depending on the theme of the scene or the theme of the story, you can more fine-tune the delivery of the lines. You can fine-tune the color palette, the music, where the camera's at, and the layout of the scene, because all that stuff, even if we don't consciously understand it, subconsciously it affects us somewhat. So I'm trying to think of a really good scene. So have you guys seen a movie called Pulp Fiction? Let's do Pulp Fiction. Have you guys seen any Quentin Tarantino movie? What do you mean book is free? if I was to buy, I'm talking about if I'm going to buy a new book or buy a ticket to see a new movie, that's just the ticket is probably cheaper than the book, because books are normally like $30-ish new, paperback or hardback. And saying that, books are normally more in depth and more expansive and take a longer time to develop, and they can tell better stories, quote unquote. But movies can tell a more compact and a more direct story. So Quentin Tarantino, if you don't know who that is, he's probably my favorite director and writer. All his movies are they're very artsy, I'll say, in certain ways. All his dialogue is very different than a lot of standard movies. A lot of conversations happen for no reason, which is kind of a sin in movie making. Every single bit of dialogue in a movie you want to have, so it advances story, it advances plot, develops character. But a lot of times in his stuff, he has just nonsensical conversations that do somewhat build this character development, but not normally. So in the movie Pulp Fiction, the two main characters played by John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, they're hitmen essentially, and they just went and killed somebody, as you do, and as they're driving back, they're talking about how John Travolta's character just went on vacation to Amsterdam, and they're talking about the subtle differences and the nuances between America and Europe. He's talking about, you could buy a glass of beer at McDonald's in Amsterdam. He's like, really, a glass of beer? Interesting. You know what they call a Big Mac, or you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in France? Samuel Jackson doesn't know, obviously. They call it a Royale with cheese because they don't know what a quarter pounder is. And throughout this entire conversation, no plot is being developed, no character is being described, nothing is really happening to advance the movie, but you're still engrossed by this weird dialogue exchange because you feel that these two characters are real people. And I think that's so important about Quentin Tarantino's movies, is all these characters seem real. In the world that he creates is so non-fiction. It's a really stark contrast, but it's also really good. So like in the movie Inglourious Bastards, the Jew Hunter, played by Christopher Waltz, it's an amazing villain. He's a Nazi SS commander who's an expert at catching. He's expert at finding hidden Jews, as we call them. And the opening scene where he goes to this French house, and he is talking to this Frenchman in English while these Jewish people are hiding under the floorboards. That opening scene is so well crafted and so expertly paced. It's just fucking mind-boggling how someone's able to do that. Yeah, the IRL supervision of the Nazis. It's really hard to explain it without like me showing you and pointing out the things that he's doing. But if you ever in a position or ever want to create media as film, books, film, TV, movie, stuff like that, it's very important to not just write dialogue and write scenes as just an exposition dump, as just a X happen, A then B then C. A very straight and direct line of writing. So like if you take a look at the newer Star Wars movies, so Rise of Skywalker, garbage movie. So the villain's main goal is to capture the hero and bring them to the bad guy, the big bad guy. That's the villain's main goal. The hero's main goal is to get to the big bad guy. Yeah, the big bad end game, whatever BB. I don't actually know what that stands for, but I know what it means. And because the two big bad guy, yeah, because the two people, the hero and the bad guy, have the same end goal, there really isn't any point to the movie. Because why did they? If she gets captured and is taken to Palpatine, he's gonna attempt to betray him anyway. So there's no really tension and no really point for this happening as well. I'm going to extend this talk a little bit to the theater. the theater, as that is where I'm an actor. I've acted in several shows, and I enjoy doing it. It's probably my third favorite thing to do. I love being on the stage and being the center of attention. And the thing with movies and theater both share in common is directorial and scene management, we'll call it, and staging is very important. So on the stage, when you're sitting and looking onto the stage, characters, depending on where they're positioned on the stage, will look taller, will look shorter, and will have different lines of eye contact. And subconsciously, as you're seeing this, when you see another character come towards you and another character back away, it makes it look like this character is bigger. They're more important. They're winning this argument. They're winning this conversation or whatever's going on the scene. And characters will tend to shift and change directions and do different things and walk different ways. And all these really subtle and really insignificant ideas to, like, things you won't even realize, like, oh, this character, he only walks in straight lines. This character, he walks in arcs. This character walks with a limp. This character, always double takes or, like, doesn't want to make eye contact. All these subtle things that you may not even notice consciously. Subconsciously, your brain does pick up on this because it's ingrained in human, like, nature to some degree. And it's really the important thing about making anything out of live people, non-writing, is body language and subtext. So I was playing Sherlock Holmes recently, and the thing about Sherlock Holmes is he's British, so I had to speak with a British accent or something like thereof, something to fool the stupid Americans who don't know anything about England and the different regional dialects of the area. Also about, also posh, because Sherlock Holmes is not a commoner, he is a smart man. The other thing about Sherlock Holmes is he's always correct. He's always right, and he always knows he's right. So when he speaks very deliberately. He speaks very straightforward, and he does not double guess himself or make breaks in his lines. He's always direct, he's always smart, and he's always, this is why this happens because of this reason, and this is this, stuff like that. And when characters speak that way, you understand their character more. But if I was playing Sherlock Holmes and I was like, I'm pretty sure, I think you just came through the window because there's, like, mud on the inside, and the glasses on the inside, if you broke out, it would go outside, you know what I'm saying? I was talking like that, or, like, not making eye contact. I was, like, looking at the floor and, like, not really, I wasn't confident in my assumptions. You wouldn't think, that's not Sherlock Holmes, that's some fucking idiot. So, if we talk about Infinity War or any of the Marvel movies, each character has their own subplots, have their own motives and own intentions, and they also have their own personalities and own ways of displaying that personality traits. So if you look at Thor throughout the Marvel movies, he has probably the most dramatic change in character. Just because of his standalone movies weren't very good because he was really hard to write for. Because how do you write for a god? He has kind of the same issue as Superman of Thor can't lose because he's basically a god, and Superman can't lose because he's basically a god, so how do you make tension? How do you make it the stakes, whatever? And they tried to play it super seriously and super, like, this is serious, this is darker for the Marvel at the time. The same thing what Superman did, the Superman movies did was, the newer Superman movies, it's gritty, it's dark, Superman snaps the dude's neck, and he's like, oh, I killed someone, no! And Batman vs. Superman's all, like, edgy and dark, but it wasn't good. Because there was, like, no tension, the writing was iffy and blech. But Thor, however, when Thor Ragnarok came out and Taika Waititi took over, he took it and flipped it, saying, because he's so absurd, like, flawless characters are no fun. So basically they took Thor as this arrogant asshole god figure of war and flipped it, make him a funny character, because it makes him seem more human. It makes him seem more normal. If he's funny, he cracks jokes, and he also feels more emotion, which, that's probably my favorite part of the Infinity War, Endgame, Ragnarok, those three movies, is you basically see Thor go from his highest point to his lowest point, and then back to a medium good part. So in the movie, you mean like every single badly written anime of I can't win, but with the power of friendship, I got this, meh. I can't think of any character that's like that. Give me an example of a character who sucks at everything but only wins because they have lots of weak friends. Exactly. That's not a real character. If that was a real character, they would be a pretty shitty one for that very reason of they suck at everything. What makes them likable? So, to split off on this tangent real fast about anime and about subverting expectations, the Konosuba anime. It's a very good anime. I very enjoy it. It's very funny, but also it's when you think about it's an isekai anime. A guy dies and goes to a different world where he has fantastical fantasy adventures. Pretty cut and dry. He has like a big titty love interest and all this other stuff. But the tip flips on its head when these characters aren't normal. You know, the hero is actually just a shut-in mean piece of shit who doesn't want to do anything. The goddess is a retard who can't function normally. They have a mage who can only use one spell at a time. She can only use one spell. That's very, 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 very effective. It's a big old explosion, nuclear blast, essentially. And then she's basically paralyzed for the rest of the day. And then you have a crusader who loves to take damage and can't hit anything. And these four flawed characters have really good chemistry with each other. All the scenes they're in are very funny. They all play with each other very well, and it's all written very well and very expertly. And the scenes they get in and the hijinks, it's all very good. It's just like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you guys ever seen that show, it's also a very, I'll say, American way of writing. It's a bunch of lovable idiots who have conflicting viewpoints, but they all play off each other very well and do, learn and get better from each other. And that's a very American way of writing for comedy. So that's probably the only way that kind of character that Owen said would make sense, is if all these weak characters suck at everything, but only when they get together they get good. It would have to be kind of like a comedy-esque situation, or maybe like the Power Rangers. I don't know. That's kind of Power Ranger-y. That's what I imagine. But anyway, back to Thor. So in those three movies, ironically, Loki's talking about Thor. I understand. So in those three movies, in Thor Ragnarok, his father dies. He loses his hammer. Also, spoilers for these movies. You've had years to see him at this point. He loses his father. He loses his hammer. You can, but that's wrong. He loses his planet. He loses his kingdom, and like half of his people die. And he basically brings about this destruction to save it, because I could tell you why it has such a small handle, because I'm in that story and it's very important to me. And he sees all this terrible stuff happen, and then in the start of Infinity War, Thanos finds him, kills even more of his people, kills his last friend Heimdall. He kills his brother, Loki, and then Thor, who is up until this point in the Marvel Universe, he's easily the strongest character, just because he is the Norse god of war, thunder, lightning. He is Thor, the most powerful character. He gets his ass beat easily. Him and Hulk, the two most powerful characters in the Marvel canon up to that point. They get beaten easily, and then they go off on their own separate way journeys. And then Thor gets a new weapon. He refines his strength. He refines his courage. And he goes and he attempts to kill Thanos, and he fails. He fails because he wanted to brag. He wanted to gloat, just like his old character would do. Like in Thor 1 in Dark World, where he would fight for glory, he would fight to be a dick and fight to prove himself to these great adversaries. He fails because he wants to brag. As he's pushing his weapon, the axe, whatever it's called, I don't remember the name. As he's pushing it into Thanos' chest, he says, "I said I'd kill you for that." And then Thanos says, "Should have gone for the head," and snaps and wins. And Thor at that point, he is ultimately destroyed as a character. That is his rock bottom. So when an end game comes out and they find Thanos again, Thor instantly kills him for that catharsis he craves. He said, "I'll kill you for that." He kills him. He's like, "All right, now what?" And then when you see him later in the movie, he has become a hermit. He's become fat. He just stands around and drinks beer all the time. And he's also extremely depressed. And extremely, he's no longer Thor, the Thor we know. He's the Big Lebowski, people call him, was what he's called. And I think it's a very accurate and very true to life representation of what depression and what depression does to you. It took a god to become a scumbag piece of shit man, essentially. And he stays depressed the entire movie. He's having trouble, he's coping with all the failure he has come across. And it's not until he goes back in time and talks with his mother and retrieves Mjolnir, his hammer, and he says, "I'm still worthy." That's his redemption moment. That's him saying, even though I failed all these I failed all these people, I failed my mission, I suck at everything, I hate myself, all this stuff, he's still worthy of Thammer. He's still worthy of the hammer. He's still Thor. And the moral of his character arc is, no matter what you go through, you are still you. Even if you get to a low point, you still have good in you. You still have the potential to be better and to be the best you. And that's really the character arc of Thor in these movies. And that's why Thor is my favorite character in Marvel, ironically enough, is because he has such amazing character arc out of nowhere when his character was kind of shit up until this point. So anyway, enough about that. Yeah, there's two of me. Look at that. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. Okay. It has such a short handle because yours truly got in the way. The story goes, this is before Thor even had his hammer. His wife, Sif is her name. She had amazing, flowing, beautiful blonde hair. It was the talk of Asgard. Everyone loved it. It was amazing. Ooh, so cool. So, what I did was, what happened was, Thor woke up one day, and his wife's hair was gone. It was shaved off. I don't know what happened, but it just happened. Stuff happens like that sometimes. So immediately he comes to me and blames me, and says, if I do not replace every single strand on his hair, he would beat me to a pulp and kill me. So obviously, I am going to solve this issue. So I go to the dwarves, the dark elves, and I find the best craftsmen I can think of. And I trick them into making replacement hair for Sif, as well as some other gifts. And I say, hey, it's going to be you brothers versus these brothers, and the best one wins, whoever makes the best gift. So they make 3 gifts each. One of them is going to be Sif's new golden hair. So I won't die. However, they want my head if they win. Obviously, I don't want to lose my head over this, so I attempt to cheat, as you do. They make 3 different... This is the real religion. They make 3 different gifts. The first one is Sif's golden hair. The second one is this band a band of gold that Odin wears, and every fortnight, I believe, it drips down and another golden band forms. So basically, Odin's wealth will increase indefinitely as long as he keeps the original band and it drips down to make new bands. The third gift, however, is the most important gift. The third gift is a hammer to defend Asgard from the ice giants, Mjolnir, as it will be called. And the two brothers who are making this need to keep the oven or the furnace at a very specific temperature, a very specific heat range, so this hammer will not break. Hammer will be perfect in every single way. And me thinking this hammer is going to easily win them the competition because it's a weapon to kill ice giants. Who doesn't love that? So I turned myself into a big old horsefly, and I'm biting on Hod, I believe his name is, who's pumping the iron, pumping the anvil, the thingy that make the furnace get hotter. The bellows, there it is. See, he knows things. He's pumping the bellows. I'm biting him, trying to get him to, like, fuck up. And eventually, after I bite so hard, he starts to bleed profusely from his hands. He swipes at me. And in him swiping at me, the heat is lost, and the hammer is no longer going to be as it will be. Fortunately, I guess, and this is why Mjolnir is such a mighty handle, at this point in time, that's what he was working on. He was working on the handle for this warhammer, essentially. And because the heat went away, he could not bind it to the actual hammer, and then so now he's got a tiny little hammer. Because of me, Thor's hammer is tiny. However, it's still the greatest weapon that us Asgardians have against the ice giants, because that thing's a fucking beast. Probably also because Thor is kind of overpowered, I'll be honest with you, but yeah, teeny hammer. So that was movie talk and a little bit of Norse mythology for you. What's the next topic? Depending on how good the mythology is. So the thing about gods is, a lot of gods throughout many different mythologies are normally tricked and beaten by people all the time. It's a fairly common occurrence. They're also very vengeful when they lose and very like asshole-ish, especially like Greek gods, bunch of dicks. But also they're very human. And I think that's why I like mythology so much, is because these gods and goddesses are very human. They're very they're more personified forces of nature than one all-powerful asshole in the sky like the Christian God is. So, like, if you think about the Greek gods, there are some gods you probably don't even know about who aren't quote-unquote that strong, but they're still gods, you know, like Hestia, goddess of the hearth. I don't know if people know about her. You might if you ever read the Percy Jackson series or played some video games. You know, you get like Pan, god of the wild. He's a satyr. Yeah. So just because someone is a god, quote unquote, doesn't necessarily mean they're overpowered. But due to our exposure to like the Christian God, who is quote unquote all powerful, you know, why aren't all gods that way? Or like when the devil went down to Georgia, he was looking for a soda steal, but he was in a bind because he was way behind because he wanted to make a deal. Came across a young man sewing on a fiddle and playing a hot. It's a good song if you guys know what that is. I mean, Zeus is a rapist, also, so. There's also a lot of that in mythology. The rape of. Zeus is a Chad rapist. As a part to a virgin rapist? I don't. What is a virgin rapist? Virgin rapist uses chloroform and roofies in people's drinks. Chad rapist turns into a swan and attacks women. virgin rapists get caught. I mean, Zeus did turn into a golden shower to impregnate a woman once, so take that as you will. You guys want to learn how accents are formed and how to do some accents or voices? Specifically, accents of English and variations of English itself. So, as an American, I don't necessarily have an American accent, quote unquote. I mean, I speak American English, which is different than British English, but I don't have like the Midwestern America. I don't have that Southern drawl that some Southerners have, or like Boston accent. Like I left my khakis in my khakis, stuff like that. In America, there's a lot of different accents, and a lot of different regional dialects. We'll call them there's Midwestern, there's Northwestern, Northeastern, there's county, there's like like a Latino homes. Hey home, how you doing? Stuff like that. That's still English, but it's dialect of English. Hey, don't you know? Like Canadian English or Canadian French English, stuff like that. Accent. And then there's also like British English, which is different than American English because they pronounce words and they emphasize different notes of the sentence. And that's really the main thing about accents is how words sign. Yeah. So that's posh British. That's the accent I can do. And there's also like Cockney. There's Scottish. When you get Scottish accent, that's when it gets kind of confusing for people who don't speak Scottish. Yeah. There's Irish. Irish is I don't know how to do an Irish accent. It's different because they don't say R's and D's, I think. That's racist. Not everything is just drunk. There's Welsh, which is a different language, but they have some kind of accent as well. So the key difference between all these different accents is they're all speaking the same language. Like it's all English to a degree. However, they are emphasizing different syllables, emphasizing different consonants, and emphasizing different pronunciations of vowel sounds and stuff like that. So if you think about English or think about speaking as a sheet of music, there is a certain tempo and a certain certain emphasis of certain notes. So when I'm speaking normal English, I tend to emphasize the first and last syllable. Now you hear that sound and a sound when I end my words. And that's really more American than British. In a British English, you kind of emphasize the beginning in the middle of words, and the end kind of just falls off. Stuff like that. Also, there's more of a rhythmic pattern to speaking British English. Where you speak, you go up and you go down and up and down and up and down. In American English, it's less so. Stuff like that. And every single different accent and every single different dialect has these variations of it. Also, what's important to realize is when you speak, your mouth, your larynx, your voice box is vibrating to a degree, and that's what's making your voice talk. However, you can move in your mouth where these vibrations are happening. So when I'm speaking like American English, I can feel the vibrations like right, where are these at? I can feel it kind of like in the back of my throat a little bit down, like on my tongue. However, when I speak in a British accent, I'm pushing my vibrations out. They're like right behind my teeth, and that's where I'm making my words, that's where they're coming from, and that's how I'm speaking differently. And when I speak with a Scottish accent, I can feel it in the back of my throat. I can feel it way back there. If I go really low, a very deep Scottish accent, it's very differently. And that's the key to any accent, is knowing where to make these vibrations. And if I were to speak Can I even do a Russian accent? Let me fail. Suka blit. It is me, Dmitry. I can't do a Russian accent. My girlfriend could do one. I can't. Yeah, shut up. If I were to speak with the Indian accent, and I thank you for calling tech support. How may I help you? You can understand how I speak like an Indian or a racist Indian stereotype. They speak like this because in their native language. So, stop. This is, up until this point, I've been speaking about people who speak English primarily as their native language, or at least their main or secondary language, and don't have an accent based on prior language experience. But when we talk about people of a different language, so like Asian languages, we think about like racist Japanese stereotypes as, oh, hello, well, that's Chinese, I guess. They don't have L sounds in their native language. Not every single sound we have in English, they don't have in their language, and vice versa. Like, we don't have the rolling R's in English normally. That's not a thing we use normally, so not everyone knows how to do it. So if I were to try and say something with a rolling R in a different language, I couldn't do it. Or just like very like guttural sounds of Icelandic, I can't do those because I don't physically know how to make those noises. So when you're trying to speak as someone from a different country speaking this language, you have to understand how that other language sounds and how they make their noises and how you would confuse the English in that. So if we're speaking with like, I can only do an Indian accent. So I'm speaking like Japanese or whatever. Like, omae mu shindaru. Even though I can't speak good Japanese, if I didn't know how to make an L sound, I would harder me say hello. Yeah. All the languages knowing how to speak it, but if you understand how other languages are spoken in relation to consonants and vowel sounds and word and sounds you don't have in your native tongue, you can understand how to do accents different religions, languages. Also, knowing where and how to vibrate in your mouth can also lead to you to making different voices and doing, silly voices that make people haha. So, if I were to speak like Gollum. But can you say that one long foreign word? Probably not. If I were to speak like Gollum. My vibrations, they're really down here in the back of my throat. And I'm constricting the back of my throat, and my tongue is kind of like folded up on itself a little bit. And that's how I speak like this. Yes. It's very similar. Scottish. If I'm a Scottish dwarf. A Scottish dwarf. I can't do a Scottish dwarf for that very long, but it's very similar because it's also in the back of the throat, but your tongue isn't doing anything. I don't know why dwarves are always Scottish. I think because they are in Lord of the Rings, and that's where everyone seems to pull from. I mean, if you're playing D&D, you can do any voice you want for your whatever, but not everyone can do those accents, so that's why they don't really exist. And then, haha, it's me, Mickey. If you want to do a Mickey Mouse voice, it's very weird because it's like at the back, it's like the back top of your throat, and when you talk, you inhale and you exhale. Yeah. So, haha. And when you inhale, that's when you talk. Yeah. It's hard to do, honestly. I can really only go, haha. That's about it. There's nowhere you can hide. I could say that, but that's just from a video. And what does that even mean? When's the last time I heard Mickey Mouse say something? The last time I saw a Disney cartoon, like 10 years ago. And there's Gorsh. Goofy. I can't do a Goofy or Donald Duck, which is just I've watched videos on how to do a Donald Duck impression. I don't understand how people do it because it's like you're forcing air and you're vibrating your tongue like through your teeth, and that's how you get the kind of thing. I don't know how to fucking do it. Doing accents is something I really want to learn how to do, and making silly voices, just because I think it's funny. And then it was me, Batman. Whatever, Bane. That's garbage, Bane. So yeah, moral of the story is, if you want to learn how to do accents and learn how to do voices, you just have to learn where in your mouth you need to vibrate and what you can do with your tongue and your face to make those noises. Because if you watch like any professional voice actor do a voice, when they're in a character, their face looks a very particular way to help them make that noise or make that voice happen. Unless that's Nolan North, when he's just talking and that's how he voice acts, because every character he voices is the same. I mean, there's a difference between making a racist accent and then doing an accent. I guess it's more about intention, because if I were to go up to like a Chinese restaurant and go, ha ha, hello, me Chinese, me no know me when pee pee in your Coke kind of thing, obviously that's a fucking blatantly racist garbage. But if I'm like voice acting for a Chinese character, a Chinese American, and I speak with a wax on, wax off like that, and that's not inherently racist. It's all about intent, which is key to everything. All right, next topic. I got like 20 minutes left. What is on your mind? What great burdens are weighing upon you? Beans. I mean, the boys 3, I'm looking for beans. Why did beans become such a meme? That's what I want to know. Why did beans become memes? I remember there's a video on like how to make memes throughout the years, and like how to make a modern meme. First you get this dark alley, and you get these shadow people, and then you deep fry and put the caption, "Me and the boys 3, I'm looking for beans." And that's the first thing. That's what I remember as the first like mainstream beans meme. But then there's like the 4chan copy pasta of like, be me, be me, be 14, going to see Cars 2, pack my favorite snack, can of beans, sneak beans in the movie theater, crack open some beans, start eating. 3 black guys turn around. 3 black guys turn around and yell into the audience, "Who's the nigga eating beans?" That's the copy pasta I remember. So those the first 2 beans. Yeah, there's a billion bean memes. Hello? One moment.